The giant room was filled with strange sounds and smells. 12 different types of alien beings sat around a massive table that looked like it was made from some kind of glowing crystal. Each creature was more unusual than the last. Some had forearms. Others had scales instead of skin, and a few looked like they were made of living metal. Ambassador Zektar shifted in his chair. His people, the Vorthans, were tall and thin with purple skin and large black eyes. He was nervous, though he tried not to show it. The other ambassadors were talking in low voices about the same thing that had been bothering everyone for months. There was a new species out there and nobody knew what to make of them. They called themselves humans and they came from a small blue planet called Earth. The planet was located in what most galactic civilizations considered the middle of nowhere. It was so far from the main trade routes that most species had never even heard of that part of space before. The first reports about humans had seemed almost funny. These creatures had only recently figured out how to travel faster than light. Their weapons were primitive compared to what the galaxy was used to. They still used something called nuclear weapons, which most civilizations had stopped using thousands of years ago. Nuclear weapons were considered messy and inefficient. Most of the council members had laughed when they heard about humans, another backward species that would eventually come begging for protection from one of the major powers. It happened all the time. Small civilizations would develop space travel, realize how big and dangerous the galaxy was, and then ask to become part of a larger empire for safety. But there was something different about the humans. They were not asking for protection. They were not begging to join anyone's empire. Instead, they were demanding to be treated as equals. This was unusual and somewhat disturbing to the established powers. High Counselor Vexith of the Zephyrian Empire was the most vocal about the human problem. His people looked like giant insects with 6 legs and hard shells covering their bodies. They had controlled a large part of the galaxy for over 2,000 years. These humans are clearly not ready for galactic society, Vexith had said during the last meeting. They are violent and primitive. Their history is full of wars and destruction. How can we trust beings who still fight among themselves? Several other council members had agreed. The humans seemed too aggressive, too unpredictable. Most galactic civilizations had learned to settle their differences through negotiation and trade agreements. War was something that happened in the distant past, not in the modern galaxy. But Ambassador Zektar was not so sure. His people had been studying the intercepted human communications for several months now. What they found was disturbing. The humans were not as primitive as they appeared to be. Their technology was different, but it was not necessarily inferior. While galactic civilizations had spent centuries perfecting energy weapons and defensive shields, humans had gone in a completely different direction. They had perfected the art of throwing things very, very fast. Their weapons fired solid objects instead of energy beams. This seemed primitive until you realized how fast those objects were moving. The humans also seemed to think differently about warfare itself. Most galactic species tried to win battles with the least amount of destruction possible. It was considered civilized to disable an enemy ship rather than destroy it completely. Humans appeared to have no such concerns. When they fought to win, and they did not seem to care about being civilized about it. Far away from the council chamber, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon. His ship was humanity's first attempt at building a vessel specifically designed for deep space exploration and diplomacy. It was smaller than most galactic ships, but it was built tough. Everything about human technology was built tough. Morrison was 52 years old and had spent most of his life in the military. He had fought in Earth's last great war, the one that had finally united all of humanity under a single government. That war had been brutal and had taught humanity some hard lessons about survival. Beside him, Commander Lisa Brooks was monitoring the communication systems. She was younger than Morrison, but she had also seen combat. Most of humanity's space program was run by former military personnel. This was not an accident. Captain, we are receiving the standard diplomatic frequencies from the Galactic Council, Brooks reported. Her voice was steady, but Morrison could hear the excitement underneath. This was the moment that humanity had been preparing for during the past 20 years. "Send them our credentials and request permission to dock at the neutral station," Morrison replied. He looked out at the stars and thought about how far humanity had come. 25 years ago, humans had found a crashed alien ship in the Pacific Ocean. The technology inside that ship had changed everything. Humanity had spent the next 2 decades reverse engineering alien technology and preparing for the day when they would join galactic society. But humanity had also been listening. Earth's intelligence agencies had learned how to intercept and decode galactic communications. They had been watching and learning about their future neighbors for years. What they learned had convinced them that the galaxy was not as peaceful as it appeared to be. The major powers ruled through fear and superior technology. Smaller species were forced to choose sides or be conquered. The so-called Galactic Council was really just a way for the biggest empires to divide up territory and resources without fighting each other directly. Humanity had decided that they would not be anyone's junior partner. They would enter galactic society as equals, or they would not enter at all. And they had spent 20 years building the tools necessary to enforce that decision. The UES horizon was just the beginning. Back in Earth's solar system, shipyards were working around the clock to build humanity's first real warship. The UES Leviathan would be ready soon, and when it arrived, the galaxy would learn what human engineering could really accomplish. Morrison smiled as he thought about the surprise that was waiting for the galaxy. Let the aliens think that humans were primitive. Let them underestimate Earth's capabilities. That mistake would serve humanity well in the coming negotiations. Commander Brooks, send a message back to Earth. Tell them that we have arrived safely, and that first contact protocols are beginning as planned. Yes, sir. Should I include anything else? Morrison thought for a moment. Tell them that the galaxy is about to learn what it means to deal with humans. The stage was set. Humanity was about to make its entrance onto the galactic scene, and nothing would ever be the same again. The diplomatic station floating around the planet Kepler 442b was bigger than most cities on Earth. It was made of some kind of white metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Ships from dozens of different species came and went constantly, making it look like a busy airport in space. Commander Sam Turner led the human diplomatic team as they walked through the station's main corridor. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm blue eyes. He had been chosen for this mission because he was good at staying cool under pressure. Behind him walked Dr. Rachel Green, Earth's best expert on alien life forms, and Colonel Mike Harris, who had spent years studying intercepted alien communications. The corridor was filled with strange creatures. Some floated instead of walking. Others had tentacles instead of arms. A few looked almost human except for their strange colored skin or extra eyes. Dr. Green was fascinated by everything she saw, while Colonel Harris was carefully noting the security arrangements and weapon placements. The meeting room was enormous. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into shadows above them. The table in the center was made from the same glowing crystal that seemed popular with alien technology. Around the table sat representatives from the 12 most powerful species in the galaxy. High Counselor Vexith of the Zephyrian Empire was the first to speak. His insect-like face clicked and buzzed as he talked through his translation device. Welcome, humans of Earth. We have reviewed your application for galactic citizenship and find it quite amusing. Several other aliens made sounds that the translation system identified as laughter. Commander Turner kept his expression neutral, but inside he was noting everything. These aliens clearly thought they were dealing with primitives who could be easily dismissed. Your species shows some promise, continued Vexith, but you are clearly not ready for true membership in galactic society. Your technology is thousands of years behind ours. Your weapons are crude and inefficient. Your history is full of violence and war. Ambassador Zektar, the purple-skinned Vorthon, nodded in agreement. Perhaps in a few hundred years after proper guidance from more advanced civilizations, your people might be ready to contribute something useful to the galaxy. Dr. Green had to bite her tongue to keep from laughing. If only these aliens knew what humanity had really been doing for the past 20 years. While they thought humans were struggling with primitive technology, Earth scientists had been reverse engineering alien systems and improving on them. Colonel Harris spoke up for the first time. "We appreciate your concern for our development. However, we believe that Earth has unique contributions to offer right now." A creature that looked like a walking tree with glowing blue sap for blood made a dismissive gesture. "What could your primitive world possibly offer us? Your nuclear weapons? Your chemical rockets? Your simple computers?" "Our perspective," Harris replied calmly. "Sometimes an outside view can solve problems that have existed for a long time." This caused more alien laughter. The creatures around the table clearly found the idea that humans could teach them anything to be ridiculous. They had been running the galaxy for thousands of years. What could a species that had only recently learned to travel faster than light possibly know that they did not? But Dr. Green had been studying more than just alien biology during the past few years. She had been studying alien psychology as well. And what she had learned was very interesting. These species had been living in peace for so long that they had forgotten how to really fight. Their weapons were designed to disable rather than destroy. Their tactics were based on avoiding casualties rather than winning at all costs. Their entire approach to conflict was what humans would call civilized. This had worked fine for them because all galactic species fought the same way. But humans fought differently. Human military doctrine was based on overwhelming force and total victory. When humans went to war, they did not try to be civilized about it. They tried to win as quickly and completely as possible. Commander Turner listened to the aliens talk about humanity's primitive weapons and smiled internally. Yes, humans still used nuclear weapons, but human nuclear weapons were not primitive. They were precisely engineered tools of destruction that could be delivered with pinpoint accuracy across interstellar distances. While the aliens had perfected energy weapons that could disable enemy ships, humans had perfected kinetic weapons that could completely destroy enemy ships. While aliens used defensive shields that could deflect energy beams, humans used armor that could survive direct nuclear hits. The aliens thought this was primitive because it was not efficient. But efficiency was not always the most important thing in warfare. Sometimes raw destructive power was more valuable than elegance. "Tell us about your military capabilities," requested Fleet Commander Korthak of the Hegemony of Worlds. He was a large creature with 4 arms and skin that looked like it was made of metal. "We need to know what kind of protection your world requires." Colonel Harris exchanged a quick glance with Commander Turner. This was exactly the kind of condescending attitude they had expected. The aliens assumed that humanity would need protection from someone else. "Earth's military is adequate for our current needs," Harris replied carefully. "We have been at peace for over 20 years now." "Peace," scoffed Korthak. "Your species fights wars every few years. How can you claim to be at peace?" "We had, some disagreements in the past," Turner admitted. "But we learned from those experiences. Now we prefer to settle our differences through other means." What Turner did not mention was that humanity's last great war had taught them lessons that no other species in the galaxy had learned. It had taught them how to fight a total war using weapons of mass destruction. It had taught them how to coordinate military operations across an entire planet. Most importantly, it had taught them how to win. The meeting continued for several hours. The aliens asked many questions about human technology, human society, and human intentions. They seemed particularly interested in Earth's natural resources and strategic location. Dr. Green noticed that none of the aliens asked about human military research or weapons development. They simply assumed that a primitive species would have primitive weapons. This was a dangerous assumption, but she was not going to correct it. As the day wore on, long-range sensors throughout the system began detecting something unusual. A large object was approaching from the outer edge of the solar system. It was moving fast and appeared to be heading directly for the diplomatic station. The alien security forces were immediately alerted. Unknown ships approaching diplomatic stations were always treated as potential threats. Emergency protocols were activated, and several patrol vessels were dispatched to investigate. But the humans at the diplomatic table were not surprised. They had been expecting this. Commander Turner checked his watch and smiled. "Right on schedule." "Gentlemen," Turner announced to the assembled aliens, "I believe our transportation has arrived. The aliens looked confused. Transportation? They had assumed that the small human ship already docked at the station was their only vessel. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. Colonel Harris stood up and walked to the large window that showed the space around the station. In the distance, a new star seemed to be growing brighter. But it was not a star. It was the fusion drive of the UES Leviathan, humanity's first true battleship. The galaxy was about to meet the real face of human technology. Every alarm on the diplomatic station began screaming at the same time. The sound was so loud that several alien delegates covered their ears or whatever they used for hearing. Red lights flashed throughout the corridors as security officers ran to their positions. In the main control room of the station, Chief Security Officer Draknor stared at his screens in disbelief. His species, the Kalari, had 4 eyes that could see in different directions at once. Right now, all 4 eyes were focused on the same impossible reading. "Something is approaching at massive speed," he reported to his superiors. "The size readings cannot be correct. No ship could be that large." The object was still far away, but it was getting closer fast. Too fast for something so big. The laws of physics said that large objects could not accelerate quickly. Yet this thing was proving the laws wrong. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Leviathan and watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Her ship was 2 kilometers long and half a kilometer wide. It was the largest warship that humanity had ever built. It was also the most dangerous thing in known space, though nobody else knew that yet. Sullivan was 60 years old and had been fighting wars since she was 18. She had commanded ships in humanity's final conflict, the war that had united Earth under one government. She had seen what human weapons could do when humans really wanted to win. The Leviathan was built like a flying fortress. While alien ships were designed to be fast and elegant, the Leviathan was designed to survive anything and destroy everything. Its hull was made of layers of different metals and composites. Even a direct hit from a nuclear weapon would only scratch the paint. "Admiral, we are being contacted by the diplomatic station," reported Lieutenant Commander Paul Adams from his position at the communications console. "They want us to identify ourselves and slow down immediately." Sullivan smiled. She had been looking forward to this moment for years. "Open a channel, Commander. Let's introduce ourselves properly." Her voice was broadcast across the entire system as she spoke. "This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the United Earth ship Leviathan. We are here to provide diplomatic support to our representatives, as guaranteed under galactic law." On the diplomatic station, panic was spreading through the alien delegations. They had never seen anything like the approaching human ship. Their own vessels were sleek and efficient, designed for speed and energy conservation. This human monstrosity looked like it had been built for war and nothing else. Ambassador Zektar was frantically trying to contact his home fleet. "What kind of ship is that?" he demanded. The reply from his flagship was not encouraging. "Unknown design, sir. The size readings show it is at least 3 times larger than our biggest dreadnought. The energy signatures are completely different from anything in our databases." High Counselor Vexith was having similar problems. His military advisors had no idea what they were looking at. "How did they build something so large?" he asked. "The engineering requirements alone should be impossible for a primitive species." Colonel Harris watched the alien reactions with professional interest. Fear was spreading through the diplomatic chamber like a disease. The aliens who had been so confident and condescending a few hours ago were now whispering nervously among themselves. "They seem upset," Dr. Green observed quietly. "Good," Harris replied. "Fear breeds respect in this galaxy. These species have been comfortable for too long. They have forgotten what real power looks like." Commander Turner stood up and addressed the assembled aliens. "Gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to the future of human space exploration. The UES Leviathan represents our commitment to taking our place as equals in galactic society." Fleet Commander Korthak of the Hegemony was studying the approaching ship through the station's telescopes. What he saw made him very uncomfortable. The human vessel was covered with weapons, not elegant energy projectors like civilized ships, used but crude-looking devices that seemed designed for one purpose: maximum destruction. "What are those things mounted all over their hull?" he asked his technical advisor. "Unknown, sir. They appear to be some kind of projectile weapons, very large projectile weapons." Korthak could not believe what he was hearing. Projectile weapons? You mean they throw things at their enemies? "It appears so, sir, but the size of those weapons suggests they throw very large things very fast." As the Leviathan came closer, its true nature became more apparent. The ship was not just large, it was heavily armored. The hull was thick and angular, designed to deflect incoming fire rather than avoid it. This was not a ship built for exploration or diplomacy. This was a ship built for war. Admiral Sullivan walked to the observation deck of her bridge and looked out at the diplomatic station. It was an impressive structure, clearly built by advanced technology. But it was also obviously designed by species that had forgotten how to fight. The station had some defensive weapons, but they were clearly intended to deal with pirates or small raiders. They would be completely useless against a ship like the Leviathan. The aliens had built their civilization on the assumption that major wars were a thing of the past. "Impressive," commented Captain Roy Barnes, Sullivan's weapons officer. He was looking at the same displays but seeing different things. "Look at all those docking bays. No serious defensive positions. These people really have no idea how to fortify a position." "Which is exactly what we were counting on," Sullivan replied. "A galaxy that has forgotten how to fight is a galaxy ready to be conquered. Not that we plan to conquer it, of course. We just want to make sure it respects us." The Leviathan's arrival was being broadcast across the galaxy through quantum communication networks. Within hours, every major species would know that humanity had built something unprecedented. The psychological impact would be enormous. On the diplomatic station, the alien representatives were receiving urgent messages from their home governments. The appearance of the human battleship was causing panic throughout known space. Military commanders who had not worried about serious threats for centuries were suddenly scrambling to assess their own defenses. Commander Turner received a private message on his personal communicator. It was from President Nancy Collins back on Earth. "Proceed with Phase 2 of the diplomatic protocol," it read. "The galaxy is watching." Turner smiled and looked around the room at the frightened alien faces. Phase 2 meant it was time to start making demands instead of requests. The balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted dramatically, and it was time to make sure everyone understood the new reality. Dr. Green was taking notes on the alien reactions for her psychological profile reports. The speed with which these advanced civilizations had gone from confidence to fear was remarkable. It suggested that their entire society was built on assumptions that could be easily shattered. "The interesting thing," she whispered to Colonel Harris, "is that we have not even shown them what our weapons can do yet. They are afraid just from looking at our ship." Harris nodded. "Wait until they see what happens when we actually use those weapons. Then they will learn what real fear feels like." The UES Leviathan settled into orbit around the diplomatic station like a giant predator taking its place at the top of the food chain. Its mere presence had already changed everything. The galaxy would never be the same. Fleet Commander Korthak of the Hegemony of Worlds had made a career out of intimidating smaller species. His battle group consisted of 12 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Each ship was equipped with the latest energy weapons and defensive systems. He had never lost a battle in 30 years of service. Looking at the human battleship through his command screen, Korthak felt something he had not experienced in decades: uncertainty. The alien vessel was massive and clearly designed for combat, but it was also primitive looking. Surely his advanced fleet could handle one ship no matter how large it was. The breaking point came when Korthak decided to test human resolve. He sent a message to Admiral Sullivan that was broadcast throughout the system so everyone could hear it. "Human vessel, this is Fleet Commander Korthak of the 3rd Battle Group. Your ship does not meet galactic safety standards. You will submit to immediate inspection or face the consequences." On the bridge of the Leviathan, Admiral Sullivan read the message and laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. She had been waiting for someone to make exactly this kind of mistake. "Sir, 12 enemy warships are moving to intercept us. reported Lieutenant Commander Adams. They appear to be forming a standard battle formation. Sullivan walked to her command chair and sat down slowly. Around her, the bridge crew prepared for combat with the calm efficiency that came from years of training and experience. Unlike the aliens, these humans had fought real wars against real enemies. "Mr. Barnes, bring all weapon systems online," Sullivan ordered. "Load kinetic batteries with tungsten penetrators, arm fusion missiles, and prepare point defense systems." Captain Roy Barnes had been Sullivan's weapons officer for 8 years. He was a quiet man who smiled rarely, but he was smiling now. "All weapons ready, Admiral. Targeting solutions locked on all 12 enemy vessels. Open a channel to the Alien Commander," Sullivan said calmly. When the connection was established, her voice carried clearly across space. "Fleet Commander Korthak, any attempt to board this vessel will be considered an act of war. I suggest you reconsider your position." Korthak could not believe what he was hearing. This primitive species was threatening him. Him, who commanded the most powerful battle group in this sector of space. One human ship against 12 hegemony vessels? Korthak replied with what he thought was amusement. "Your courage is admirable, but your judgment is terrible. Surrender now and we might let your species live." What happened next would be remembered throughout the galaxy as the 7-Minute War. Admiral Sullivan's expression did not change as she gave the order that would reshape galactic politics forever. "Mr. Barnes, you may fire when ready." The Leviathan's main gun spoke with a voice that the galaxy had never heard before. Instead of the clean energy beams that galactic civilizations preferred, the human weapons hurled solid chunks of metal at incredible speeds. The tungsten penetrators left the ship's guns at significant fractions of light speed. The alien shields were designed to stop energy weapons. They had been perfected over thousands of years to deflect laser beams and plasma bolts, but they were completely useless against solid matter moving at such tremendous velocity. The hegemony flagship simply disappeared. One moment it was there, the next moment it was expanding cloud of glowing debris. The tungsten penetrator had passed completely through the ship and continued on into space, carrying pieces of the vessel with it. "Direct hit on Target 1, Barnes," reported with professional calm. "Target destroyed." The remaining 11 alien ships opened fire immediately. Their energy weapons lit up space with brilliant beams of concentrated power. The beams struck the Leviathan's hull and accomplished absolutely nothing. The human ship's thick armor had been designed to survive nuclear explosions. Alien energy weapons were like flashlights against a mountain. Commander Linda Foster was in charge of the Leviathan's defensive systems. She had served in Earth's final war and had seen what happened when defense systems failed. The Leviathan's defenses would not fail. "Multiple missile launches detected," reported Tactical Officer Dan Wright. 67 incoming projectiles from all remaining vessels. "Deploy countermeasures," Foster ordered without any sign of concern. The space around the Leviathan suddenly filled with defensive fire. Hundreds of small automatic weapons tracked and destroyed every incoming missile. The alien weapons, designed to overwhelm enemy defenses through numbers, were casually swatted aside by human technology. Not a single missile reached the Leviathan's hull. "All incoming projectiles destroyed," Wright reported. "Enemy weapons appear to be ineffective against our defensive systems." Admiral Sullivan watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The alien fleet was firing everything they had at her ship and accomplishing nothing. Meanwhile, her weapons were systematically destroying their vessels one by one. "Continue firing, Mr. Barnes. Target the largest ships first." The Leviathan's guns fired again and again. Each shot destroyed an alien warship completely. There were no disabled vessels, no survivors drifting in escape pods. When human weapons hit something, that something ceased to exist. The aliens had never seen warfare like this. Their own battles were civilized affairs where ships were disabled rather than destroyed, where crews were captured rather than killed. This was something entirely different. This was total war. Fleet Commander Korthak watched his battle group being systematically annihilated and felt something he had never experienced before: complete helplessness. His advanced weapons could not penetrate the human ship's armor. His defensive systems could not stop the human weapons. His ships were being destroyed one after another, and there was nothing he could do about it. "Sir, we have lost 8 ships," his tactical officer reported with barely controlled panic. "Our weapons are having no effect on the enemy vessel. Recommend immediate withdrawal." But it was too late for withdrawal. The human ship was destroying his vessels faster than they could retreat. In less than 6 minutes, 10 of his 12 ships had been completely destroyed. "All ships, this is Fleet Commander Korthak," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Cease fire immediately. We surrender unconditionally." On the diplomatic station, the alien representatives watched the battle through telescopes and sensor feeds. The speed and completeness of the human victory was beyond anything they had imagined possible. Ambassador Zektar felt sick as he watched. The most powerful military force in this sector of space destroyed in minutes by a single human ship. "How is this possible?" he whispered to himself. High Counselor Vexith was frantically sending messages to his home government. The Zephyrian Empire needed to know what they were dealing with. These humans were not primitive at all. They were something far more dangerous. They were efficient killers who had perfected the art of war. Admiral Sullivan accepted the alien surrender with the same calm she had shown throughout the battle. "Fleet Commander Korthak, you and your surviving vessels will withdraw immediately. Consider this a lesson in the consequences of threatening Earth citizens." Dr. Green was taking detailed notes on everything she observed. The psychological impact of the battle was exactly what Earth's planners had predicted. The aliens were not just defeated, they were traumatized. Their entire understanding of warfare had been shattered. 7 minutes, Colonel Harris observed, with satisfaction. "It took us 7 minutes to destroy the most powerful battle group in this sector. I think the galaxy is beginning to understand what humanity is capable of." The news of the battle spread across the galaxy at light speed. Within hours, every major species knew that humanity had defeated the hegemony's 3rd battle group without taking any damage. The psychological impact was immediate and overwhelming. The galaxy had forgotten what real warfare looked like. Humanity had just reminded them, and the reminder was terrifying. The age of human dominance had begun. The news traveled faster than light across the galaxy. Within hours of the 7-minute war, every major civilization knew what had happened. The hegemony of worlds, one of the most powerful military forces in known space, had been completely destroyed by a single human ship. The reaction was immediate and universal: terror. Emergency sessions were called on 100 different worlds. Military commanders who had not worried about real threats for centuries suddenly found themselves trying to figure out how to defend against an enemy they did not understand. Trade routes were abandoned as merchant ships refused to travel without heavy escorts. The Galactic Council convened an emergency meeting within 12 hours of the battle. The same chamber that had been filled with laughter and condescension just days before was now silent, except for the nervous sounds of frightened aliens. High Counselor Vexith stood at the speaker's platform, but his usual arrogance was gone. His insect-like hands shook as he addressed the assembly. "Fellow council members, we face a crisis unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The humans have demonstrated military capabilities that exceed our most advanced projections." Ambassador Zektar reviewed the battle recordings for what felt like the 1,000th time. Every time he watched it, the result was the same. 12 advanced warships destroyed in 7 minutes by weapons that should not have worked. Their technology operates on completely different principles than ours, Zektar reported to the council. Where we have spent millennia perfecting energy, efficiency, and precision, they have developed systems based on raw, destructive power. The recording showed the human projectile weapons in action. Instead of elegant energy beams, the humans fired chunks of metal at incredible speeds. The concept was so primitive that no galactic civilization had seriously considered it in thousands of years. Yet it worked with devastating effectiveness. Our defensive systems are useless against solid projectiles moving at those velocities, admitted Fleet Marshal Kethvar of the Stellar Alliance. Our shields can deflect energy, but they cannot stop matter. We would need to completely redesign our entire military doctrine. On Earth, President Nancy Collins received reports from around the galaxy with deep satisfaction. The plan was working perfectly. For 25 years, humanity had been preparing for this moment. While the galaxy assumed Earth was struggling, with primitive technology, human scientists and engineers had been developing weapons specifically designed to counter galactic defenses. The psychological impact has exceeded our projections, reported General William Stone, chairman of Earth's Joint Chiefs of Staff. Galactic stock markets have crashed. 3 minor species have already requested protection treaties. The major powers are in complete disarray. Collins nodded. The strategy had been simple. Let the galaxy underestimate humanity, while secretly developing overwhelming military superiority. When the time came to reveal Earth's true capabilities, the shock would paralyze potential enemies. Admiral Sullivan found herself appointed as Earth's first military attaché to the Galactic Council. It was a position that had never existed before the 7-Minute War. Her first official duty was to present humanity's demands to the assembled representatives. The council chamber was packed when Sullivan entered. Every species in the galaxy had sent representatives to hear what the humans wanted. The atmosphere was tense with fear and anticipation. Sullivan walked to the speaker's platform with the confident stride of someone who had just proven their superiority in the most convincing way possible. She looked out at the assembled aliens and smiled. "Honorable representatives," she began, "humanity comes before you today not as supplicants seeking your approval, but as equals demanding recognition. We seek full representation in all galactic affairs, equal trading rights, and the establishment of human colonies throughout known space." The demands were not requests. They were statements of fact backed by the smoking wreckage of the hegemony's third battle group. Any attempt to treat humanity as anything less than a full partner in galactic civilization will be met with appropriate military response, Sullivan continued. We have demonstrated our willingness and ability to defend our interests. We trust that this demonstration will not need to be repeated. The transformation in alien attitudes was immediate and complete. Species that had laughed at humanity's primitive technology just days before now competed to offer the most favorable trade agreements. Military alliances that had seemed impossible suddenly became urgent necessities. Ambassador Zektar was among the first to approach the human delegation after Sullivan's speech. The Vorthan Empire would be honored to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth, he said with what humans would recognize as desperate politeness. High Counselor Vexith, who had been the most vocal critic of human capabilities, now found himself offering military cooperation agreements. The Zephyrian Empire has great respect for human military efficiency. Perhaps we could arrange joint training exercises. Dr. Green observed the changed dynamics with scientific fascination. It's remarkable how quickly established power structures can collapse, she noted in her reports to Earth. These civilizations have spent thousands of years believing that technological sophistication equals military superiority. Humanity's victory has shattered that fundamental assumption. The psychological warfare had been as important as the actual battle. By destroying the hegemony fleet so completely and easily, humanity had sent a message that could not be ignored. Earth was not just another small civilization seeking protection. Earth was a new dominant power that could destroy anyone who opposed. Yet within weeks, human colony ships were being launched toward star systems that had been closed to outside settlement for centuries. The same alien governments that had talked about guiding humanity's development were now offering their best worlds for human colonization. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral and commanding the human exploration fleet, found himself with more opportunities than he could handle. "Every species in the galaxy wants to be our friend," he reported to Earth. "They're offering us technology, territory, trade agreements, anything we want." The speed of humanity's rise to galactic prominence was unprecedented. Within months, human fleets were patrolling trade routes that had been dominated by alien powers for millennia. Human colonies were being established on worlds that had never seen alien settlement before. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the galaxy thought about warfare itself. The comfortable assumption that conflicts could be settled through negotiation and limited force had been destroyed, along with the hegemony fleet. Colonel Harris, now Earth's Director of Galactic Intelligence, studied the changing military doctrines throughout known space. Every major power is redesigning their weapon systems, he reported. They're trying to copy our kinetic weapons and armor designs, but they're thinking like engineers, not like warriors. That was humanity's real advantage. While alien civilizations had brilliant scientists and advanced technology, they had forgotten how to think like soldiers. They had grown soft during centuries of peace and prosperity. Humanity had never forgotten. Earth's final wars had taught hard lessons about survival and victory that the galaxy had never needed to learn. Those lessons now gave humanity an unshakable advantage in galactic politics. The galaxy had screamed in terror when Earth's battleship arrived. Now it whispered in submission as humanity took its place as the newest and most dangerous power in known space. Dr. Green concluded her final report with an observation that would become the foundation of human galactic policy. We did not conquer the galaxy through superior technology. We conquered it through superior will. While they pursued perfection, we pursued victory. The lesson was clear to everyone now. In a universe where most species had forgotten how to fight, the one that remembered would inherit the stars. Humanity's age of expansion had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.